So it seems that once I've finished, I still can't get away from my PhD. Just last week, the graduate office called me and told me, Liam, are you aware that your academic fees are outstanding? I said, oh. Well, thanks very much. So I am an epidemiologist, and some of you will be thinking, oh, that's related to skin. But no, common misconception. So please do not show me any strange, flashy bulges that you might have after the show. I'll give you my Snapchat username instead. No, an epidemiologist is a little bit like a disease detective. So we're interested in the where, the how, and the why of disease transmission. I am basically Hercule Poirot. No, I am. I spend a lot of time in libraries. I like everything very neat. I sit in large rooms with confused and irritated people and watch the accusations get thrown around. Those are called conferences. And being a disease detective might sound really awesome, but actually I've lost a lot of cool points with my friends now that they've realised it was the WHO that I got to meet and not the WHO. So, my research looks at where emerging diseases like Ebola come from. And Ebola was a major public health crisis, and that's really difficult to find humour in, so I guess that's me done. Now, luckily for us, we are still constantly discovering new diseases. They're almost like general elections in that we know we can't avoid them, we know they're probably going to be painful, but we just don't know when exactly they're going to happen. And luckily for us, many of these new diseases don't become public health crises, so it's totally okay to make fun of them. So take for instance the mysterious case of Mycobacterium jacuzzi, a new species of bacteria found in a hot tub belonging to a cosmetic surgeon. Now here's the real mystery. 10 of his patients, all who had breast enlargements, were also found to have the infection despite maintaining they had never visited his home. And this is fascinating because this makes this the first human disease we found that's transmitted by absolute magic. And then there's Newcastle disease. So this is an occupational disease of maybe the most underappreciated professions there are, chicken farmers and lab technicians. And patients report this infection as particularly unpleasant. It's not because of the fever, and it's not because of the chills, it's because of the insatiable urge to down pints of brown ale. Now the main symptom is actually conjunctivitis, which does make you question, why are the eyes, man? And then we found an unknown skin infection in the groin of an Austrian patient who reported no sexual contact for 5 years. And the only clues were the pets freely roaming around his flat. Now, without proper housing, he reported that he kept them warm by snuggling with them at night with his 3 adult Burmese pythons. And we never conclusively proved whether the infection came from the pythons, but at least we solved why there was no sexual history for 5 years. And this is a really good example of our inherent or possibly intimate connection with animals, which can often lead to a zoonosis. So a zoonosis sounds like a day trip out without your annoying little sibling, but what it actually means... Keep up. Is an infection that moves from animals to humans. And more than 60% of our infectious diseases are a zoonosis. And this is no accident. Diseases are really good at jumping between species, particularly so from bats. And this meant that when I used to work in bat research, everyone asked me, oh, I see bats all the time in the park, they're about 100 feet away from my face, could I get rabies? And I think by that response you worked out the answer is no. Now there's only 2 ways you can get rabies here. One is by importing continental American bats and spending your evenings making out with them. And I know some of those bats have really curvaceous wingspans. And the second is by pissing off epidemiologists by constantly asking stupid questions. Now bats, we think, are the source of a few things. Ebola, SARS, Nipah, you might know from the film Contagion. So actually, Nipah transmits in forests where people go to bat roosting trees and collect fruit and sap that's been contaminated with feces. I mean, that's batshit crazy. So before I go on, I have to introduce the microbiome. So what the microbiome is, it's like our own unique personal signature of bacteria in our body. So, for example, we all have a microbiome in our mouth, and if we kiss, we blend those together at a rate of about 8 million bacteria per second. So couples end up with very similar microbiomes, even though most of you are lurching away from each other right now. And this means that you can forget lipstick on the collar, because the 21st century way of telling if they're cheating on you is by getting some swabs in a petri dish. So it's not just nasty exotic diseases that are zoonoses. So we know that in young children, their gut microbiome is most similar to their mother than their father. Who's next on the list? Maybe siblings, grandparents? Nope, it's the family dog. It really is just like the song goes, you and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. And this explains our really intensive disease transmission channels. And this is obviously a bad thing when we get severe illnesses, but it could be a good thing. So there's some evidence that exposure to more bacteria through pets can help with allergies. This didn't seem to work as well for dog allergies, but I wish people had told me this when I was younger, because I had terrible allergies. You know, I was almost like one of those kids you see in big plastic bubbles because they can't touch anything. My parents couldn't afford one of those, so I had to sit in a paddling pool with cling film on. So we know that many of our new diseases, they seem to use this strange sort of strategy where, well, it's a strategy you're probably already familiar with. It's a very in thing right now. They're very evolutionarily specialized to take everything they can get from their host environment with very little negotiation and then get out as soon as possible. Who would have thought that the PM could be taking lessons from parasites? Maybe Brexit didn't mean Brexit. Maybe it meant infects it. So now you know the typical ending of these disease detective stories. And when it comes to new diseases, it's not the butler, but the critters that did it. And just as you'll clap to get rid of this epidemiologist, please remember the epidemiologist next time you need to get rid of the clap. Thank you very much.